The lawyer's office went dead silent when he read my father's will. I leave my entire fortune of $1.8 million to my stepson Marcus Thompson. I was my father's biological daughter, yet my stepbrother got everything. But my father miscalculated one thing: just how powerful I really was. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you've ever experienced injustice from your family, don't forget to hit that like button. The ending of this story will show you where real strength comes from and why sometimes the best inheritance is the one you create yourself. My name is Jessica, I'm 29 years old and I live in Dallas, Texas. This story began 3 years ago with my father Richard Thompson's death, but the roots of this betrayal go back much deeper. My father was 58, a successful real estate investor with multi-million-dollar projects throughout Texas's most prestigious areas, including Highland Park, University Park, and the exclusive Preston Hollow neighborhood where Dallas's elite live. My mother Sarah died of breast cancer when I was 8 years old, leaving my father to raise me alone during the most formative years of my childhood. Those were some of the best years of my life, actually. My father and I were incredibly close, and he taught me everything about business, determination, and standing up for yourself in a world that doesn't always appreciate strong women. Jessica, he would tell me during our Saturday morning visits to his construction sites, success isn't about what people give you. It's about what you build with your own 2 hands. He would let me sit in on business meetings explaining complex real estate deals in terms I could understand. By the time I was 12, I could read a property appraisal and understand market trends better than most adults. My father was proud of my intelligence and business instincts, often bragging to his colleagues about his little business partner. But everything changed when my father married Helen 3 years after my mother's death. Helen was 35, a divorced single mother with a 2-year-old son named Marcus. From the outside, it looked like the perfect blended family: a successful businessman providing stability for a struggling single mother and her child. The reality was far more complicated and painful. Helen was an intelligent, manipulative woman who understood exactly how to position herself and Marcus as the needy ones who required my father's protection and financial support. She had grown up in poverty and was determined to secure a wealthy lifestyle for herself and her son, regardless of how that affected me. "Jessica is so mature and capable for her age," Helen would say with a sweet smile during family dinners. "She can take care of herself. But Marcus is more sensitive, more vulnerable. He needs extra attention and support to reach his full potential." This narrative became the foundation of our family dynamic for the next 18 years. I was the strong, independent daughter who could handle anything, while Marcus was the sensitive, vulnerable son who needed constant care and financial investment. At first, the differences were subtle. When I asked for new school clothes, my father would give me a budget and take me shopping at mid-range stores. When Marcus needed clothes, Helen would take him to expensive boutiques and buy entire wardrobes without discussing cost. "Jessica is practical and doesn't care about brands," Helen would explain. "Marcus is more sensitive to how other children perceive him. His self-esteem depends on fitting in with his peer group." When I wanted to join the school debate team, my father said I could participate if I found a way to pay the fees myself. When Marcus wanted to play travel baseball, my father immediately signed him up for the most expensive league in Dallas and bought him $2,000 worth of equipment. The pattern became more pronounced as we grew older. During high school, I worked part-time jobs to earn my own spending money, car insurance payments, and college savings. Marcus received a monthly allowance of $2,000 from my father, plus additional money for special expenses, like dates, spring break trips, and a brand new BMW for his 16th birthday. "Marcus needs to focus on his academics and social development," Helen would explain when I questioned the obvious inequality. "You've always been so capable of multitasking and managing responsibilities. This arrangement plays to both of your strengths." When it came time for college applications, the favoritism reached new heights of absurdity. I had worked hard throughout high school, maintaining a 3.8 GPA while working 20 hours per week at a local marketing firm. I was accepted to several excellent universities, including the University of Texas at Austin and Texas A&M. My father's response to my college acceptance was typically focused on my supposed strength and independence. "You can take out student loans, Jessica," he told me matter-of-factly over dinner. "It'll build character and teach you the real value of money. Some of the most successful people I know started with debt and worked their way up." Meanwhile, Helen was already making plans for Marcus's college experience, even though he was still a sophomore in high school with a 2.7 GPA. Marcus will need the full college experience to develop his confidence and leadership skills, she announced. We should start looking at schools with strong alumni networks and social opportunities. When Marcus was accepted to the University of Texas at Austin 2 years later with significantly lower grades than mine, my father not only paid his entire tuition, room and board, but also provided him with a generous monthly stipend for academic expenses, a luxury apartment near campus, and a new truck. Marcus needs to focus exclusively on his studies without the distraction of work, Helen explained when I questioned why he was receiving so much more support than I had. You've always been capable of balancing multiple responsibilities, but Marcus learns better when he can dedicate all his energy to academics. The irony was that Marcus barely attended classes and spent most of his college years partying, while I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in business administration and marketing, despite working 2 part-time jobs throughout college to pay for living expenses. I graduated with $85,000 in student debt, while Marcus graduated debt-free with a business degree he'd barely earned through minimal effort and maximum financial support from my father. After college, the preferential treatment continued in even more obvious ways. I found work in Dallas's competitive marketing industry, starting as an assistant account manager at a mid-sized firm specializing in real estate marketing. I rented a small 1-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, bought a reliable used Honda Civic, and slowly began building my career through long hours, excellent work, and gradual advancement. My father was proud of my independence and often bragged to his business associates about his self-made daughter, who was succeeding without family help. But that pride came with a cost. It meant I would never receive the kind of support that Marcus took for granted. Marcus, on the other hand, was immediately given a position at Thompson Real Estate Investment with an $80,000 starting salary, despite having zero experience in real estate, construction, property management, or any other relevant field. He's learning the family business, my father would explain when people question Marcus's rapid advancement and high salary. Someone needs to carry on the Thompson legacy, and I want to make sure he's properly prepared. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was a Thompson too, but apparently the wrong kind of Thompson to inherit a legacy. For the next several years, I watched this dynamic play out repeatedly in increasingly expensive ways. When Marcus wanted to buy his first house at 25, my father provided a $75,000 down payment and co-signed the mortgage. When I bought my first house at 27, I saved every penny of the down payment myself while living in a cramped apartment for 2 additional years. When Marcus's relationship with his college girlfriend ended badly and he went through what Helen described as a devastating emotional crisis, my father paid for a month-long trip to Europe to help him heal and gain perspective. The trip cost over $15,000 and included first-class flights, luxury hotels, and expensive restaurants. When I went through my own painful breakup around the same time, ending a 3-year relationship with someone I thought I might marry, my father's advice was limited to "you're strong, you'll bounce back," and a suggestion that I keep busy with work to distract myself from the pain. The pattern was consistent, painful, and financially devastating for my father's relationship with me. Marcus received support, understanding, and unlimited financial resources, while I received expectations, praise for my strength, and encouragement to handle everything independently. But the most painful part wasn't the money. It was the clear message that my father saw Marcus as someone worth investing in, while he saw me as someone who didn't need or deserve that same investment. 3 years ago, everything came to a head when my father suffered a massive heart attack while showing a luxury property to potential investors in Preston Hollow. He was rushed to Presbyterian Hospital, Dallas, where doctors managed to stabilize him, but the damage to his heart was severe and irreversible. During his week-long stay in the ICU, I visited him every single day after work, often staying until late evening when visiting hours ended. I would bring him books, help him with phone calls to business associates, and sit quietly with him when he was too tired to talk. Marcus and Helen visited too, but their conversations with my father focused primarily on business concerns, practical matters, and planning for what comes next. They seemed more interested in securing their future than in providing emotional support during his recovery. My last real conversation with my father happened on a Wednesday evening when his condition had stabilized enough for serious discussion. The nurses had dimmed the lights in his private room, and we had privacy for the first time since his heart attack. "Jessica," he said, his voice weaker than I'd ever heard it, "you've always been my pride and joy. You've become such a strong, capable woman. You can stand on your own 2 feet in a way that makes me incredibly proud." "I learned that strength from you, Dad," I replied, holding his hand and trying not to cry. "But I also need your support sometimes. I'm your daughter too, not just Marcus." He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the ceiling before responding. "You're stronger than Marcus, sweetheart. You always have been. That's why I've had to protect him more, give him more guidance and financial security. He needs it in a way that you don't." "But Dad, that's not fair," I said, finally voicing the complaint I'd held inside for years. "I work just as hard, I've achieved just as much, and I've done it all without the support you've given him. Doesn't that count for something?" "It counts for everything," he replied, squeezing my hand. "You've achieved more than Marcus ever will, and you did it through your own strength and determination. That's worth more than any money I could give you." I wanted to argue to make him understand that his favoritism had shaped our entire family dynamic and left me feeling like a second-class child in my own home. But he looked so frail in that hospital bed that I couldn't bring myself to upset him further with difficult conversations about fairness and love. "I love you, Dad," I said instead, kissing his forehead. "I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know." That conversation haunted me for the rest of the week. I kept thinking about his words, about the way he seemed to believe that being strong meant I deserved less support, less investment, less care. On Sunday morning, my father suffered another massive heart attack while sleeping. This time the doctors couldn't save him. He died peacefully, surrounded by family, but I couldn't shake the feeling that our last conversation had been incomplete, that there were things left unsaid between us. The funeral was a major event in Dallas's real estate and business community. My father had been well respected and well connected, and hundreds of people came to pay their respects. Business associates, former clients, competitors, family friends, and community leaders all gathered at the Cathedral Santuario de Guadalupe to honor his memory and celebrate his life. Helen played the grieving widow perfectly, dressed in elegant black Chanel and accepting condolences with appropriate dignity and grace. But I noticed something calculating in her eyes, a sense of anticipation that made me uncomfortable. She seemed less focused on mourning my father and more focused on what would happen next. Marcus had transformed overnight into the man of the family, shaking hands with my father's business associates and speaking confidently about carrying on the Thompson legacy and maintaining the company's reputation for excellence. He seemed to have forgotten that I was a Thompson too, and that I had just as much right to that legacy as he did. During the reception following the funeral service, several of my father's business associates approached me to express their condolences and share memories of working with him. "Your father was so proud of you, Jessica," said William Davidson, one of my father's oldest clients. "He used to brag about your business instincts and work ethic. He said you had more natural talent for real estate than anyone he'd ever met. He always said you were the one who really understood the business," added Patricia Chin, another longtime client. "Marcus is nice enough, but you have your father's vision and determination." These conversations gave me hope that maybe I would have a significant role in carrying on my father's business legacy, despite the family dynamics that had always favored Marcus. 1 week after the funeral, we were summoned to Attorney Benjamin Clark's office for the reading of my father's will. Clark had been my father's lawyer for 15 years and had handled all his major business transactions, property acquisitions, and estate planning. The office was traditional and imposing, with dark wood paneling, leather-bound law books, and an atmosphere of serious business and important decisions. Helen, Marcus, and I sat in chairs arranged facing Clark's massive oak desk, while Clark prepared to read the document that would determine our futures. "I'll be reading Richard Thompson's last will and testament," Clark announced in his formal attorney voice, adjusting his glasses and opening a thick leather folder. The first section covered small bequests to charities, former employees, and family friends. My father had always been generous with people who had helped him over the years, and I was touched to see that he had remembered his longtime secretary, his first business partner, and several local charities that he had supported quietly for years. Then came the main event, the part we were all waiting for with varying degrees of hope and anxiety. I leave the remainder of my estate, including my real estate portfolio in Dallas and Houston, my investment accounts, my business interests, and all remaining assets totaling approximately $1.8 million, to my beloved stepson Marcus Thompson. The words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. The room fell completely silent except for the tick of an antique clock on Clark's bookshelf and the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Clark continued reading in his professional, emotionless voice. My reasoning for this decision is as follows. Marcus is my true heir and the person I trust to carry on the Thompson family legacy. Through my marriage to Helen, I have come to love him as my own son, and I want to ensure his future financial security and success. My daughter Jessica is a strong, successful woman who has proven she can take care of herself and build her own success without relying on inherited wealth. She has the character, intelligence, and determination to create her own legacy, while Marcus needs the foundation that this inheritance will provide. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what I'd just heard. 29 years of being the strong one, of working harder and achieving more while receiving less support. And this was my reward, being excluded from my own father's legacy because I was supposedly too capable to need help. The irony was devastating. I was being punished for the very strength and independence that my father had forced me to develop through years of unequal treatment. Helen managed to look appropriately surprised while clearly fighting to hide her satisfaction. "Oh, Richard," she said with practiced emotion, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. He always thought so carefully about these decisions. He knew Jessica was strong enough to succeed on her own. Marcus attempted to look shocked by the news, but the relief and excitement in his eyes were unmistakable. "I had no idea he was planning this," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "I mean, I'm honored, but I'm also surprised." "This is completely unfair," I said, finding my voice for the first time since the reading began. "I'm his biological daughter. I've worked in real estate, I understand the business, I have relationships with his clients. How can he leave everything to Marcus?" Attorney Clark adjusted his glasses and spoke in his professional, legally precise tone. "Jessica, this is a legally valid will executed by your father when he was of sound mind and body. He had every right to distribute his assets as he saw fit, regardless of blood relationships or any other factors. But I'm his actual child," I protested, hearing the desperation in my own voice. "I'm a Thompson. This business, this legacy, it should be mine too. Blood relation doesn't create automatic inheritance rights under Texas law," Clark explained patiently. "Your father made his decision based on his own judgment, values, and assessment of what would be best for everyone involved. What about what's fair?" I asked, looking directly at Helen and Marcus. "What about 29 years of being his daughter?" Helen's mask of sympathy slipped slightly, revealing something colder underneath. "Jessica, your father loved you deeply, but he also knew your character. You're strong enough to make your own way in the world. Marcus needs this foundation to reach his potential." "His potential?" I repeated, incredulous. "I have a business degree, work experience, and relationships in the industry. What potential does Marcus have that I don't?" Marcus looked uncomfortable but didn't defend himself or object to the inheritance. Helen answered for him. "Marcus has been working at the company for 3 years. He understands the business and has your father's trust." That evening, I went home to my small apartment and cried harder than I had since my mother's death. But somewhere between the tears and the anger, something began to crystallize in my mind. If my father believed I was strong enough to succeed without his help, then I would prove him right in ways he never imagined. If Marcus was going to inherit $1.8 million based on need rather than merit, then I would show everyone what merit could accomplish without inherited advantages. The next morning, I made a decision that would define the rest of my life. I was going to build something bigger and better than what my father had left to Marcus, and I was going to do it using only my own skills, determination, and the business knowledge my father had taught me during those early years when we were close. The first step was understanding exactly what Marcus had inherited and developing a realistic assessment of his ability to manage it successfully. Thompson Real Estate Investment was the company my father had built over 25 years of hard work, strategic acquisitions, and careful relationship building. It specialized in high-end residential developments, commercial properties, and investment consulting for wealthy clients throughout Texas. The company had an excellent reputation and a client list that read like a who's who of Dallas society: oil executives, technology entrepreneurs, professional athletes, and old money families who had been in Texas for generations. The company's success was built on my father's personal relationships, his reputation for integrity, and his deep knowledge of Texas real estate markets. Marcus had been working there for 3 years, but primarily in entry-level positions where his mistakes could be managed by more experienced staff. Now he was suddenly the owner and CEO of a company worth nearly $2 million, with responsibility for managing major projects and maintaining relationships with extremely demanding, wealthy clients. I began watching Marcus's performance carefully, and my predictions about his incompetence proved accurate almost immediately. He had no real understanding of the complex financial aspects of real estate development, no meaningful relationships with the key clients who drove the company's profits, and no leadership experience managing a team of experienced professionals. Within the first month after inheriting the company, problems began surfacing that revealed the depth of Marcus's inexperience. He made a critical error in a property appraisal that cost a major client $50,000 in overpayment. He failed to file important permits on time for a luxury development project, causing construction delays that threatened the entire timeline. He struggled to answer basic questions during client meetings, often relying on senior staff to provide information that he should have known as the company's owner. Longtime employees started expressing concerns about the company's direction and Marcus's leadership capabilities. Several key staff members began quietly updating their resumes and reaching out to competitors, worried about the company's future under Marcus's management. Major clients began questioning Marcus's competence when he demonstrated a lack of understanding about their projects during quarterly review meetings. The wife of a prominent Dallas businessman called me directly after a particularly disastrous meeting with Marcus. "Jessica, I don't understand what's happened to Thompson Real Estate," she said. "Your father was brilliant, but Marcus seems completely lost. Is there any way you could get more involved in the company?" Meanwhile, I accelerated my own career development with laser focus and strategic planning. I used every professional connection I'd made in marketing to transition into real estate consulting, leveraging my insider knowledge of the industry, my understanding of my father's client base, and my genuine passion for the business. I started by offering freelance consulting services to smaller real estate companies, helping them with marketing strategies, client relationship management, and market analysis. Word spread quickly about my skills and knowledge, and within 6 months I had more work than I could handle as a part-time consultant. My plan was elegant in its simplicity. I would watch Marcus destroy my father's legacy through incompetence and poor decision-making while I built something even better through my own skills, relationships, and determination. 8 months after inheriting the company, Marcus faced his first major crisis. He had catastrophically mismanaged a luxury development project in Plano, one of Dallas's most affluent suburbs. The project involved building custom homes for executives and their families, with each house priced between $800,000 and $1.2 million. Marcus had failed to properly vet the construction contractor, hadn't secured adequate insurance coverage, and had made unrealistic promises to buyers about completion dates. When the contractor turned out to be unreliable and the construction fell behind schedule, 3 key investors pulled out of the project, demanding full refunds of their deposits. The financial damage was devastating. Thompson Real Estate Investment lost nearly $400,000 between refunded deposits, legal fees, and the cost of finding a new contractor to complete the project. Worse, the company's reputation in Dallas's tight-knit luxury real estate community was severely damaged. At exactly the same time Marcus was dealing with this crisis, I launched Jessica Thompson Consulting, positioning myself as an independent real estate advisor with deep knowledge of the Dallas market and a track record of successful project management. My first major client was William Davidson, one of my father's oldest friends and business associates. William owned a portfolio of commercial properties throughout Dallas and had been a client of Thompson Real Estate Investment for over 15 years. "Jessica," William told me during our initial meeting at his office in downtown Dallas, "you have your father's intelligence, his work ethic, and his integrity. Marcus has his money and his title, but you have his vision and his understanding of this business. I'd rather work with someone who knows what they're doing than someone who inherited a position they're not qualified for," he continued. Your father would be proud of what you're building. Within 6 months, I had successfully recruited 60% of my father's former client base to my new consulting firm. These clients were frustrated with Marcus's inexperience, concerned about the company's declining reputation, and eager to work with someone who truly understood their needs and the industry. "You're Richard's real successor," they would tell me during client meetings. "Marcus has the name and the inheritance, but you have the talent and the knowledge." The contrast between my first year in business and Marcus's performance during the same period was stark and telling. By the end of my first year as an independent consultant, Jessica Thompson Consulting had generated $300,000 in profit. During that same period, Thompson Real Estate Investment lost $450,000 due to Marcus's mismanagement, the departure of major clients, and the expensive fallout from the Plano project disaster. The second year brought even more dramatic results as I expanded my services and Marcus's company continued its downward spiral. I began offering comprehensive investment consulting and project management for large-scale developments, positioning myself as a full-service alternative to traditional real estate companies. My reputation grew quickly in Dallas's competitive real estate market, and I began attracting clients who had never worked with my father's company but were drawn to my track record of successful projects and satisfied customers. Meanwhile, Marcus's company faced a series of new crises that revealed the depth of his incompetence. He lost 2 more major clients due to missed deadlines and poor communication. The company's most experienced project manager quit in frustration, taking valuable institutional knowledge with her. Marcus made a disastrous investment in a commercial property that turned out to have serious environmental contamination issues, costing the company another $200,000 in cleanup costs and legal fees. Helen tried to intervene by pressuring Marcus to make better decisions and consulting with him on major business choices, but her interference only made things worse. She didn't understand the real estate business any better than Marcus did, and her involvement created additional confusion and conflict within the company. By the end of the second year, the contrast between my success and Marcus's failure was becoming impossible to ignore. I had earned $850,000 in profit while building a reputation as one of Dallas's most reliable and innovative real estate consultants. Marcus had lost $900,000 of his inheritance and had damaged the Thompson name throughout the industry. The third year was when my long-term strategy reached its climax. This was the year of my father's 3rd death anniversary, and I was ready to deliver the final lesson about strength, inheritance, and what it really means to carry on a family legacy. Marcus's company was on the verge of bankruptcy, hemorrhaging money through poor investments, client defections, and operational inefficiencies. Most of my father's former employees had either quit or been laid off due to budget constraints. The Thompson Real Estate Investment name, once respected throughout Texas, had become associated with failure, unprofessionalism, and broken promises. During this period, Helen began calling me regularly with increasingly desperate requests for help and collaboration. "Jessica, we need to think about family unity and working together," she would say during these conversations. "Could you possibly help Marcus stabilize the company? We could work out some kind of partnership arrangement that would benefit everyone." "Helen," I would reply calmly, "my father specifically said I was strong enough to succeed on my own, and you agreed with that assessment. I'm simply following his guidance and building my own success." "That was different," she would protest. "The situation has changed dramatically. Family should support family during difficult times. Family support should have been considered when the inheritance was distributed," I would respond. "It's too late for that conversation now." As Marcus's failures became more public and embarrassing, Helen and Marcus began blaming me for stealing my father's clients and deliberately undermining the family business for personal gain. "You're sabotaging Marcus out of jealousy and resentment," Helen accused during one particularly heated phone call. "You're destroying your father's legacy just to prove a point." "I'm providing better service to clients who were disappointed with Marcus's performance," I replied calmly. "That's called competition, not sabotage. And I'm preserving my father's legacy by serving his clients with the excellence and integrity they expected from the Thompson name." "You're destroying everything your father built," Marcus shouted during a confrontation at a charity gala where we both happened to be present. "No, Marcus," I replied, maintaining my composure in front of the other guests. "You're destroying everything our father built." I'm preserving it by serving his clients with the competence and professionalism they deserve. By the end of the third year, Helen made an unexpected offer that revealed just how desperate their financial situation had become. "Jessica," she said during a private meeting at an upscale Dallas restaurant, "if you help save Marcus's company, I'll convince him to share the inheritance with you. You could get half of what's left." I looked at her across the table and smiled. "Helen, that inheritance was rightfully mine to begin with. But more importantly, I don't need it anymore." And I truly didn't need it. My own company had generated over $1.2 million in profit over 3 years, while Marcus had managed to lose all but $200,000 of his $1.8 million inheritance. The fourth year brought complete vindication of my strategy and total collapse of Marcus's position. Helen was now calling me multiple times per week, begging for assistance and offering various increasingly desperate deals to secure my help in saving what remained of the inheritance money. "Jessica, your father really did love you," Marcus said during one of these conversations, his voice defeated. "Maybe he didn't leave you money because he knew you were strong enough to make your own fortune." "Marcus," I replied, "he didn't leave me money because he thought being strong meant I deserved less support than you. But that same strength allowed me to build something better than what he left you." I had started visiting my father's grave regularly at Restland Cemetery, and each time I would tell him about my progress and share my thoughts about what had happened between us. "Dad," I would say, standing beside his headstone in the peaceful memorial garden, "you punished me for being strong, but that strength was a gift you gave me. You didn't leave me money, but you left me something more valuable, the knowledge that I could build my own success. Marcus got your money, but I got your character, your work ethic, and your understanding of this business. And character lasts longer than money ever could." By the end of the fourth year, Marcus's company had officially filed for bankruptcy. The entire $1.8 million inheritance was gone, consumed by bad investments, operational losses, legal fees, and Marcus's complete lack of business acumen. The bankruptcy was covered extensively in the Dallas Business Journal and other local publications, marking the end of a 25-year legacy that my father had spent his entire career building. Meanwhile, my company had grown to employ 25 people and generate annual revenues exceeding $3 million. I had become one of Dallas's most respected real estate consultants, known throughout the industry for my integrity, expertise, and results. In the fifth year, on the 5th anniversary of my father's death, Helen called me one final time. "Jessica," she said, her voice completely defeated, "Marcus and I are in serious financial trouble. We're facing foreclosure on our house and we don't know what to do. Could you possibly help us?" "Helen," I replied calmly, "5 years ago my father said I was strong enough to take care of myself while Marcus needed financial protection and support. You supported that decision and helped convince him it was the right choice. Now I'm using that same strength to give you my answer. No." "But we're family," she protested desperately. "When the inheritance was distributed, I wasn't considered family," I replied. "That standard works both ways." After that conversation, I permanently cut off all contact with Helen and Marcus. Today, 6 years after my father's death, the situation stands as follows. Me. I'm a successful businesswoman with a net worth of $3.5 million. My company, Jessica Thompson Consulting, employs 40 people and handles some of Dallas's largest and most prestigious real estate projects. I own a beautiful home in Highland Park worth $1.2 million, drive a luxury Mercedes-Benz that I paid for in cash, and have built a reputation based on excellence, integrity, and results rather than inheritance or family connections. Marcus, after squandering his entire $1.8 million inheritance through poor business decisions and incompetent management, he now lives in a small apartment with Helen and works as a delivery driver for a local food service company. The business degree he barely earned has proven worthless without the work ethic, intelligence, and determination needed to apply it successfully. Helen, after watching Marcus lose all the money she had helped him inherit, her devotion to him cooled considerably. She now works as a receptionist at a medical office, facing the financial realities she had avoided for years through her marriage to my father. My success isn't measured only in money, though that's certainly a significant factor. More importantly, my father's former clients, business associates, and competitors now refer to me as Richard's true successor, and the one who really inherited his vision and values. Jessica, you have your father's determination, his business intelligence, and his integrity, clients tell me regularly during meetings. Marcus never had any of those qualities. The Thompson name in Dallas real estate now belongs to me, not to the bankrupt company that Marcus destroyed. I've restored the reputation that my father spent 25 years building, and I've expanded it beyond what he ever achieved. Last year, when I visited my father's grave on the anniversary of his death, I shared my final thoughts with him. Dad, you punished me for being strong, but that strength was the greatest gift you ever gave me. You didn't leave me money, but you left me something infinitely more valuable: the knowledge that I could build my own success and create my own legacy. Marcus got your money, but I got your values, your work ethic, and your understanding of what it really means to earn something. Your money is gone forever, but the principles you taught me continue to create wealth and success. You thought being strong meant I deserved less support and investment. I've proven that being strong means I can create my own support and build something better than anything you ever imagined. The greatest irony of this entire story is that my father achieved exactly what he claimed he wanted. He left his money to someone who needed protection and guidance, and he forced his strong child to prove her strength through independent achievement. The only thing he miscalculated was which approach would truly honor his legacy and values. Marcus's $1.8 million inheritance lasted exactly 4 years before disappearing completely. My self-created wealth has reached $3.5 million and continues growing because it's built on competence, relationships, and value creation rather than entitlement and inheritance. My father didn't leave me money, but he gave me something more valuable: a reason to prove my worth and the motivation to exceed his own achievements. He disappointed me as a father, but he inadvertently prepared me for success in a way that no inheritance could have achieved. Today I feel genuinely grateful rather than bitter about being excluded from his will. If he had left me money, I might never have discovered just how capable, determined, and successful I could become on my own. Marcus's story, on the other hand, serves as a perfect cautionary tale. When you inherit something you haven't earned through your own merit and effort, losing it becomes inevitable. I don't regret the path I was forced to take, and I no longer resent my father's decision. He gave Marcus money and security, but he gave me motivation and the drive to exceed his own success. He gave Marcus a foundation, but he gave me the tools to build my own empire. In the end, I got the better deal by far. The lesson I learned is that the greatest inheritance isn't the money someone leaves you, it's the strength, values, and determination they inspire you to discover within yourself. If you were in my situation, what would you have done? If your father had excluded you from his inheritance in favor of a step-sibling who was less qualified and less deserving, would you have given up and accepted that injustice? Or would you have created your own legacy like I did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story inspired you or reminded you of your own experiences with family favoritism, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about turning family betrayal into personal triumph and success. Remember, the greatest inheritance isn't the money someone leaves you, but the strength and determination they inspire you to find within yourself.